Hi Scorpio, welcome to your reading. If you're new to the channel, I do timeless readings, which means that whenever you find this video is when you're meant to hear the messages within it. And in case you subscribe, I upload my new videos for Scorpio and Taurus on Tuesdays. Also, I do just want to let you guys know that the name of the deck that I'm using today is called the Sun and Moon Tarot, in case you guys enjoy it. But I do want to say that, as always, my information to get a personal reading is in the description below. And finally, last but not least, I do want to tell you guys a little bit more about how I shuffle my cards. So I'm going to go ahead and take this in the upright. It really went back and forth, but I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But like I was saying, sometimes the cards like to flip over in the deck, and I do see them. However, I usually only take cards that jump out like these ones do. And usually if they jump out in groups that are too big, I'll go ahead and put them back. Case in point, that was like 3 or 5 cards there, but my goal here is to get you guys 8 or 9 cards like we have now. So now we can get started. All right, Scorpio. So I do just want to remind you guys that in case you enjoy the reading, the best way to let me know is by leaving a like or a comment. But your overall energy here is the Chariot card. Now, the Chariot card is a very powerful card because it talks about movement, right? And I feel like a lot of you guys are doing a lot of moving right now. Not necessarily physically, but there might be a lot of sort of mental movement going on right now in the way, like, I see a lot of you guys paying off bills, right? I see a lot of you guys like sitting down and really thinking about like, okay, if I pay this much to this place and then this much to this other place, we can knock out this bill, do that, this, that, and the other, right? And you're making all that movement in your head, or you're making like emotional movement to where you're kind of evolving how you feel about a certain situation. And sort of last but not least, I feel like for a smaller group of you guys, you are doing some physical moving, either from an old house to a new house, or maybe like a different place to a new place. That can be a state or a country. But also what I'm getting here with this Chariot card is this sense of competition, right? Because I'm getting sort of the imagery of a chariot race. And it feels like this person here on this particular chariot is so far ahead in the race that you can't even see the other person anymore. And I know that this is like out in a field, so it's not really like a chariot race, but that's the energy that I'm getting. It feels like there's a competition and you are winning, and it might not even be an actual legitimate, or what's the word that I want to say? It's not legitimate, but like a competition, right? It might be just something that you are doing in your head, like setting yourself some goals, comparing yourself, like your stats to other people or whatever. And I feel like you're coming out on top here. I feel like you're very powerful, confident energy, especially since we have this Emperor card here. And now I just noticed that we have the Emperor and the Chariot, which both are major arcana, which represent astrological signs. The Emperor represents Aries and the Chariot represents Cancer, which are both cardinal signs. So I feel like you guys are doing a lot of innovating right now, a lot of moving forward, a lot of sort of pioneering in your field or in whatever it is that you're doing. But on top of all this energy and sort of this Emperor energy that's very confident, very strong, very, again, motivated movement kind of energy, you have here the Universe card. Now, the Universe, known as the world in other decks, is all about closing out a chapter. I'm getting very strongly that some of you guys might be closing off a chapter with an Aries, or maybe somebody who has an Aries placement. But either way, I'm seeing that you guys are really putting an issue to bed. I feel like there's been something that's kind of been nagging at you for a long time, and now you're kind of in a better position than perhaps ever before to put this kind of to bed, right? I feel like maybe in the past it wasn't like that big of a deal, or you were just dealing with other things, or you just didn't have the time, or this, that, and the other. And now it's kind of that time that you're closing out this chapter and you're finally like uh putting putting that issue to bed. I don't know why I keep getting those particular words. Even just now when I tried to like switch up the words that I wanted to use, maybe use like a different vernacular or whatever, none of the phrases that I went through in my head felt right. So I think that for some of you guys, beds might be important. Perhaps you're buying a new bed. Perhaps you work at like a mattress store. I don't know. But beds are important. So get your rest. You know, you guys are Scorpios, so there's like the sign of sex, and I know that there's kind of like a joke to be made there, but I don't think that that's necessarily it, even though you guys are probably having sex right now. More so than usual, I should say, because currently as I'm filming this, it's during the quarantine, but that's neither here nor there. Here we have the Seven of Cups with the Ace of Wands. Now, that to me is very, very kind of like mature, powerful energy, right? Because the Seven of Cups is sort of sitting around fantasizing and thinking, right? So when I get it, I get sort of like this energy of taking something that is unfocused, right? So it's like you could be more efficiently putting that energy elsewhere, but you're kind of like exploring scenarios that might not even happen or that are extremely unlikely. And it's kind of like using your energy where it could be used in other places. Not to say that it's like not as meaningful or not as good to daydream as it is to like plan or whatever. But I feel like because this is in reverse, you're taking a very realistic, mature kind of approach to it. I feel like you guys are really trying to come up with a solution to all the things that you're trying to do right now. I don't want to say the word problems, but all the things that you're trying to do right now in a way that's very creative, for sure, but it's very mature and realistic and efficient, right? I feel like for you guys right now, getting it done is the name of the game, but either way, with this Ace of Wands, you have that new beginning taking place, but in a very powerful, passionate way, right? The Ace of Wands is very representative of motivation and passion and drive and energy, right? Fire is energy at its most, core parts. Like it's something that gives off energy in the form of heat. So I feel like you guys are going to be very much reinvigorated. It's going to feel like you were just like pumped full of energy is what I'm getting here. And it's important to note that the universe card, the world card, is an ending, right? It's the final major arcana in the tarot deck. So it brings with it that air of finality. But what you'll notice when you start to read tarot or like when you get readings or whatever is that endings are just beginnings that have been packaged differently, right? So when you have something that ends, it sort of leaves this open space, this kind of vacuum for something else to grow in there. And I feel like because you're sort of taking all these like if I use gardening as an example, you're taking out all the weeds and you're leaving room for other plants to grow, you're going to get these wands energy where it's like very passionate, very beautiful, very pretty, like flowers that grow in that space. But either way, I do want to talk about this 9 and 10. I feel like you guys lately have felt like everything is on your shoulders. Like you're getting asked to do this from this side and getting asked to do that from that side. And it can be all very it can be all very stressful, but I feel like you're capable of handling it because I'm looking at this woman here and she's not really like breaking a sweat with those 10 wands. She's doing it, but she would rather not, she'd rather carry less, I'm sure. But with this 9 of Wands here, I'm getting that you guys are doing a lot of healing that's related to this, right? So it's like whatever is on her shoulders, or I should say your shoulders, is sort of like emotional, right? It's kind of, I'm guessing okay, the energy tells me it could be any. So it could be spiritual baggage or, okay, I don't want to use the word baggage because I feel like that has such a negative connotation, but you understand what I mean. Spiritual healing you need to do, mental healing, emotional healing, like all kinds of healing that's kind of on your bucket list here. And with this Nine of Wands, you're coming in and you're healing it and you're doing it, right? And you're doing it very gracefully, I'm getting, for sure. And that is leading up to this. I'm looking at this Three of Swords. This Three of Swords, I almost disagree with, because it feels like it should be in the reverse. It feels like you guys are walking away from this. It feels like you guys aren't in this energy, but instead the Nine of Pentacles is in reverse. So my question to you would be, how do you feel about like what you're feeling, right? So like, do you think that what you feel is representative of what you're doing? Like, let's say you win a Nobel Peace Prize and, you know, you're sad about it. Like, I don't want to tell you how you should feel, but like that would come with some kind of pride, right? Some kind of happiness that you did, that you accomplished something. So what I'm trying to say here is, don't minimize your accomplishments. Celebrate and maybe indulge a little bit, and don't be afraid to really celebrate yourself, right? Because I'm getting here that it's almost like, even though you're doing this healing, even though you're putting like so much work into yourself and getting things done, it's almost like in your mind, you're not meeting your own standards. And as they say, we are our own worst critic. So be wary of being hypercritical on yourself, because things that, you know, you notice about yourself are going to be 10 times more noticeable to yourself instead of like the general public. So what I'm getting at here is like, the Three of Swords is heartbreak, it's heartache, and it's devastation. And it feels like you guys are worried about this or are experiencing it regardless of what's kind of going on around you. So I would say, like, if you need to grieve, definitely grieve, because your feelings are valid, but also don't minimize everything that you do, right? And then with this Nine of Pentacles here in reverse, it feels like energy of you guys becoming a little bit more dependent. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you shouldn't, I feel like, go into your relationships with that kind of expectation, right? I feel like you should try to be as independent as possible. And I feel like most of you know that, and most of you are trying your hardest to get there. And I'm proud of you, but don't like lose sight of what your goals are. Like, if you have something that you're really trying to work towards, don't get lost in sort of the minutia and like the boring everyday sort of tasks and chores, and the days go by and the weeks go by and the months go by, right? Because what the energy that you guys should ideally be in is this Chariot card, where you're going through and you're stampeding and you're running over any obstacle that's in your way, right? So I for sure see it. It feels like you have all this powerful energy, all this stuff that's going on around you, and all this stuff that you are achieving, but don't be too critical of yourself. Pat yourself on the back sometimes. So, Scorpio, that was your reading for this time around. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please leave a like or a comment, because it really helps out the channel. But I personally really love to know if these readings resonate with you guys, so be sure to leave a like or a comment. But like I said before, I upload my new videos for Taurus and Scorpios on Tuesdays. But in the meantime, you guys are more than welcome to watch any of my other timeless readings that I have up on the channel. And with that being said, I hope to see you guys next time for your next reading.